So all of us, no matter where we live, are affected by agriculture.
I think the current administration does not take climate change seriously enough.
Farmers both contribute to climate change and are also very vulnerable to the effects of climate change.
In sum, basically, I think climate change will fundamentally alter how farming is done in the United States. And if we don't adapt farming practices to climate change, I think that the impacts on our food security and our health will be disastrous.
Climate change is a really big issue. It's going to continue being a big issue. We are in a situation where we have to feed way more people and also have a harder time growing crops.
So the effects of climate change are wide-ranging and they vary from region to region. I would say that climate change impacts could be summarized as saying they make the extremes more extreme.
So every year I do farm tours. This last year, the focus was on the climate crisis and how it was impacting our local farms. In every single farm that I visited, climate change is a challenge for them.
We have had extremely erratic weather patterns. Every year is different.
We notice a lot of swings in temperature and moisture, very extreme.
Every season's been different for us. It's hard to learn how to do something in the spring with the amount of water we have in some years. In the next spring it could be totally warm and feel like summer.
Many farmers are experiencing these problems, but they're reluctant to link them to climate change.
One of the biggest barriers we've faced is really trying to get farmers on board with adapting to climate change and mitigating climate change.
It's not the most important issue pressing the United States at the moment, I don't think. And I think anybody that says it is just has their head in the sand.
It's, for many farmers, something that they've probably been dealing with for a long time.
It's not something that's recent. The weather has always been a challenge for farmers, and you do your best as you can to adapt.
Farmers in this area, I could almost see why they might not believe in it, because we have erratic weather patterns here.
Obviously we need to do something. The question is what?
When we talk about our nation's agriculture, we ought to have a 50-state farm policy. That means that we have to support farms and all their uniqueness in every single state. The Agriculture Committee has helped, support farmers dealing with the climate crisis in a number of ways. One is, again, providing, grant assistance and loans to help farmers make the necessary adjustments on their farms.
Current strategies aren't inadequate.
Here we have a Department of Agriculture which is pretty useless.
I don't know of any government programs that help with climate change.
Yeah, there absolutely should be more help, whatever helps feed our country.
There are farmers that are trying different things, but until they get price incentives or economic incentives to make the changes that we need, it's very difficult for them to very rapidly make that change.
There are a lot of resources from universities.
We have a series of videos and resources that farmers can use to try to figure out and learn what other farmers have done that has worked to adapt to the changing climate.
Some of the changes that we're seeing, a lot of that is being cataloged kind of by local groups, but I'm not aware of any broad scale catalog that you could easily look up online or easily have access to.
I think there should be a government database of best practices to help farmers deal with the new reality.
Some things are being done at local levels. We really have to change policy at the federal level.
The United States government needs to be more engaged on the issue of climate change.
I think it depends on how a government solution would be approached. Climate change is regional. It's going to be very localized. I think the structure of the program could certainly be replicated, but the importance of it is making sure that these programs are regional so they could really hone in on the impacts that those specific farmers will be facing.
This is a really broad and far-reaching topic that has impacts for everyone. And for that reason, I think that the 2020 candidates should be talking about it more. It could be a way for politicians to connect with Americans who feel like they've been left behind.
For ag producers should be on the cutting edge of using land conservation to store carbon, to begin a frontal attack on global warming, and getting rewarded for doing it.
We need a president who actually believes in science and who will acknowledge that we do have a climate crisis.
There's been a lot of discussion about climate change among some 2020 candidates.
Several have released climate plants as well as rural or agricultural plants.
Do I feel that there's a strong candidate who has a strong stance on climate change? No, not really.
The impact of climate change on our rural communities and on farmers is happening now, and unfortunately in many cases those communities don't have the resources to be resilient.
We may have a large number of farmers that all of a sudden go out of work because they can't do what they've been doing. We could totally see products have to move to other areas of the world to be produced, other regions of the U.S.
The consequences, I think, can't be overstated.
This is definitely going to be an issue that affects all voters.
Of course, this issue needs to be resolved now.
We all need food to live.
The time is definitely now to act on this.
Our vision in 2020
is a comprehensive strategy
that will aid farmers,
the earth, and all Americans.